What's going on, everyone? So the Los Angeles Lakers had a very good run with D'Angelo Russell last season, especially in the regular season and mostly through the playoffs. I know a lot of people were really upset with D'Angelo Russell for that Denver Nuggets series, but it wasn't just him, and we don't even get to that Denver Nuggets series if it wasn't for D'Lo. But what D'Lo provided was some real playmaking, a guy that could score at all three levels, a guy that shot 42% from three, 50% from the field, and was very solid in a short time, right? He was a point guard that has a very tough duty in trying to facilitate and create for others as well as himself with no chemistry, no understanding of where guys like to be, where they like the ball, which are all important and significant things for a point guard. Well, the Lakers were able to re-sign him to a 2-year, $36 million contract, which is a great value for D'Lo. And now with a full offseason, a full training camp, a full preseason, D'Lo can now begin to kind of build that chemistry with this roster. But one of the big things that D'Lo did do that really benefits the Lakers is he waived his sort of no trade clause. It's not like a traditional no trade clause like what Bradley Beal had, but it was a 1+1 deal. He has a player option in the next year. And with that, what it does is it basically automatically used to be included, where now it's not, right? Now it's actually up to the player to make that decision, and D'Angelo Russell is the first player to waive that sort of no trade. And what this does, and what many people pointed to, is that, hey, this means the Lakers are going to trade D'Angelo Russell. There were talks, even before D'Lo signed, that the Lakers want to retain D'Lo so that way they can look to move him at some point during the course of this season. Also, there's reports that the Lakers want to give Austin Reeves more point guard and ball handling duties, which that would also signal the possibility of D'Angelo Russell's departure. And if Max Christie really does become a thing and is going to end up moving into the starting lineup, if you have Austin Reeves who can kind of be molded into a point guard, which he played in high school and college, you can just shift him to the 1 and then have Max Christie at the 2, making D'Lo even more expendable. Now, this doesn't mean that they're going to trade him, right? I don't think the Lakers signed him solely with the idea of like, okay, let's keep him just so we can trade him later on down the line. No, I don't think that's what it is. I think he's a 17, 5-5 guy that I think will this year be a 17-5-8 guy that can be very good and very important and play a huge role for the Lakers over the course of the season. I really do. I really like what he brings to this Lakers roster. I know some people disagree and some people don't want that, but nonetheless, I don't think that that was the Lakers' sole intention. Like, let's sign D'Lo so we can trade him. But if something comes on the horizon, then of course, I absolutely think he is tradable and expendable and somebody that, if the right deal is there, make it happen. And one of the teams that is interested in trading for D'Angelo Russell, it seems like, is the Utah Jazz, which I find very interesting because the Utah Jazz helped orchestrate and facilitate D'Angelo Russell going to the Lakers. Now, there was talks of Utah wanting D'Lo when they originally went and were trying to figure out what are they going to do, but ultimately he ends up going to the Lakers. And reports have came out that actually Utah may be interested in trading for him later on down the line. Now, you're not going to be able to trade for him right now, like even if the Lakers and the Jazz worked out a deal right now, it wouldn't be able to get done. I don't think D'Lo's eligible to be traded till like the end of January, if I'm not mistaken. So this would be something that would be probably closer to the trade deadline. And I mean, D'Lo kind of makes sense, right? Like Talen Horton-Tucker, is he really the answer at point guard? Probably not. Although he was actually really good for them in spots. So was Chris Dunn. Chris Dunn was great, but D'Lo is a better Chris Dunn, and he's bigger, so that is something that I think could help. Jordan Clarkson, he's probably best suited as a backup rather than a starting level. And then Colin Sexton, they kind of seem to be hot and cold on. So, and also Colin Sexton, before going to the Utah Jazz, he had like the 4th worst plus minus in league history. So that's something else. It's one of the reasons why the Cavs were just so like willing to give Colin Sexton. And there were even reports that Cleveland wasn't even going to resign him, that they were just going to let him go. But ultimately, they worked it out. He ended up on the Utah Jazz. So, I mean, Is that something that you could look forward to later on down the road? Possibly. Now, you're not going to get like some crazy return. Like, you're not getting Lauri Markkanen or Walker Kessler or anything like that, or even a John Collins. Well, maybe John Collins. Like, if John Collins isn't working out for them, maybe you can convince them for John Collins, because, I mean, John Collins was traded for a bag of peanuts. But chances are you're not getting anything major, right? You're not going to get some big roster rehaul for D'Angelo Russell from the Utah Jazz. But could you get like a Kelly Olynyk, and maybe you could even get like a Colin Sexton or something like that. I'm sure that they'd be willing to move off of him. Although, again, I don't really know how I'd feel about something like that. Like Colin Sexton, I'm not super high on, but in a backup role, maybe. But you have Gabe Vincent, so it's like, what do you want to do there? Colin Sexton's just really hot and cold, right? But Colin Sexton, I think, as like a backup, like just in a vacuum type scorer, I think could be very beneficial. I do like the idea of Kelly Olynyk. I really do. I think he could be a solid piece and a solid acquisition, a 7-footer that could stretch the floor. You could play him alongside Anthony Davis and Jackson Hayes, which also, like, let's say the Lakers don't get another big man. Like, what happens if Biz and, Christian Wood, what happens if they end up signing elsewhere, right? Like, could you go get a Myers Leonard? Sure, right? But you could still kind of use another big man. And so let's say you get Myers Leonard, or even if you get Christian Wood, right? Like, let's say you do land Christian Wood, right? Like, he's not really a center. He's kind of smaller, where Kelly Olynyk, at least he is a legit 7-footer, is capable of playing center. He is tough and hard-nosed, 6'10", 6'11". He does have a smaller wingspan. 6'10" is where the wingspan comes in. But I don't hate the idea of him, and he's like a legit 3-point shooter. So I think maybe you could work out a package like that. Look, D'Lo is going to be expendable at some point, right? Because if the plan, which several high people have reported that, like, hey, Austin Reeves, the Lakers really want Austin Reeves to kind of get more playmaking duties and kind of handle the ball more and be on the ball in that role, which, again, it makes sense. And he did it a lot in the back half of the season, as well as during the playoffs, especially down the stretch in like that Memphis series, for example. Like, he was completely taking over and playing point guard and handling the ball and just scoring and facilitating and all that stuff, right? So if that is the goal of like, hey, our future is going to be Austin Reeves at the point, Max Christie at the 2, Jared Vanderbilt at the 3, Rui Hachimura at the 4, and then Anthony Davis at the 5, as we kind of bring in, a Colin Castleton and all those guys. Like, that's our core for the future going forward. Then D'Lo's definitely expendable, right? And that's definitely something that you're going to look to move on. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to, or that the Lakers will trade him this year, right? Like, don't get your hopes up like, oh, that's it. Like, D'Lo's gone. Like, no. Because the Lakers could, if the Lakers are really good and there's nothing that's great that makes sense, then why go that route of trading him? Why not at least see what happens this year? And, what if you win an NBA championship, right? And D'Lo's a big part of that. Well, then he's probably opting in, and you're going to go try for the repeat and then figure out what's going to happen unless you win again. But even if, like, let's say you do win and he does want to leave, well, then he just leaves, and now you're just moving Austin Reeves to the point guard, and LeBron James, he can kind of restructure his contract, and now you're in a position to maybe go get that LeBron replacement or whatever. So the Lakers are also going to have to do the due diligence and like not taking on long-term salary. Like, the last thing you want to do is trade D'Lo for somebody that's under a 4-year contract, unless it's somebody you really like, where you're getting, like a star or like a really blue chip rotation guy that you want for the long haul. Then yeah, sure, something like that. But I fully expect D'Lo to be a big part of the Lakers for quite some time, at least this year and potentially next year. And I'm okay with that. I know not everyone is, but I really am. I'm okay with that. I think he provides a lot of what the Lakers need and can handle a lot of the workload during the regular season with LeBron James and Anthony Davis going to miss, probably 60 games collectively between the two of them. So you need guys like D'Lo who can be a 20-point a game night on any given night, a guy that can go for 30 on any given night, which he did for the Lakers. So I think that has a lot of value, and I think the Lakers kind of use him and ride him throughout the course of the season. Again, nobody's untradeable, right? If even guys like Max Christie and stuff like that, yeah, the Lakers are super high on him, but if, Luka becomes available tomorrow and Max Christie is the centerpiece, and for whatever reason Dallas really wants Max Christie, then you think the Lakers are gonna sorry, we don't want Luka, we'll stick with they're gonna trade Max Christie. I'm not saying that would ever happen. I'm just saying nobody's untradeable. Like I always see fans throw out Austin Reeves is untradeable, or D'Lo is untradeable, or Jared Vanderbilt is no, they're not. They're not untradeable. But you're not just gonna trade them for a bag of peanuts, right? You're not trading Max Christie for Kelly Olynyk, right? You're not doing something like that. But we'll see. Time will tell. I just find it really interesting that they ended up going and helping the Lakers get D'Angelo Russell when they could have just went and traded for D'Lo, which I think is funny. But I don't know. Time will tell. Anyways, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? Would you want D'Lo to be traded to Utah? And if so, what would you want back from Utah? Again, within reason. You're not getting Kessler. You're not getting Lauri Markkanen, right? It's not happening. But I think you could get, a couple pieces. Maybe like Collins. Maybe work out a trade for Sexton and, Olynyk for D'Lo and something. Maybe. But anyway, again, love to hear it. Let me know.